Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I am your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today for our FA Cup third round Middlesbrough at home preview is AJ. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, excited for this one. There is a question mark in the back of my mind of whether or not we're covering games again now. We're going to go back to being shit, but I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we shall see. And Drew, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, mate.
Yeah, good to have you back on. Obviously, we're looking forward to uh, what is the start of the FA Cup journey for this year for Fulham. Hopefully, not going to be a dead one for us and have a ending early in the third round. Middlesbrough are a difficult team to have, and in the third round, they've been in great form this year. I've seen them play 4 or 5 times when they've been on TV, and I've always been impressed with the way they play. They have some players that we have spoke about ourselves. Hayden Hackney being a bright spark of a player that that we've earmarked in games when we're talking about in shows. So we're talking about potential transfers. You know, Matty Target coming back down to the Cottage to play on Saturday too, a player that should be welcomed back by one of the fans because he was always more than well liked when he played for us. Um, Big one, this one, AJ. I know I always ask this question about potential starting lineups and what we're going to see. It's not really a lot of room for rotation because the squad's quite depleted at the moment. But are there any moves that you won't be surprised to see Marco make? Any players that maybe come in, players maybe rested? What you expecting for this
Yeah,
one, mate?
it's a strange. Yeah, it's a strange one because we're kind of playing half of the players we'd normally rotate in at the moment. Maybe Harrison Reed gets a start. That's probably a given considering his recent cameo appearances. Young probably goes back in at left back. Diop probably gets another start outside of the back three system. Um, and of course, Lecomte probably comes in. Outside of that, maybe we finally see another start for Kusi Asare. Now that we're in a position where this game is a cup game, we've got the luxury of being able to breed him in a bit more, especially since Marco Silva's promised to give him more game time. Outside of that, I think this is an excellent opportunity for Kevin to potentially get on the score sheet and be able to put things into good perspective for him and start getting that positivity in his gameplay back and have that confidence to go on and progress in the Premier League too.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a few players that have been on the edge of the squad, especially in the Premier League with injuries and stuff. I think we'll probably see a few players dropped. I'd be interested to see if maybe Marco drops Leno and brings in Lecomte because he was more than adequate in the League Cup when he came in. He had a bit of a bad game at Newcastle away, but you know, there's a bit different to playing Barra in the third round of the FA Cup. But we'll see what we see there. I won't be surprised if we see the starting lineup that started against Chelsea on Wednesday because it's Marco Silva and that's the most unsurprising thing he'll do. But
We'll probably see
I
more of
think we will
King.
see some. Yeah, I think we will see some changes. I think there's some players that need to work their way back into play. Josh King is one of those, who's not played in a couple of weeks. I think he's back from injury tomorrow. We shall see. Drew, FA Cup, mate. It's always a big one. I always get really excited about the FA Cup. It's always a competition we want to do well in. It's a competition we usually do well in until we draw Man City away. But what are your hopes for the FA Cup this year, mate? What do you want to see us actually do in terms of pushing on and keep it? Maybe have that dream of making it to Wembley. How you feeling?
Well, Silva, I mean, it's not so much how I'm feeling, it's how Silva's feeling. Silva's changed the whole mentality of the club when it comes to cup games. And it's become a real priority, as evidenced by the fact that Fulham are increasingly doing well in cups. I mean, obviously, we'd like to win a cup, wouldn't we? I mean, getting to the quarterfinals and the semi-finals now is generally considered to be realistic at Fulham. But we're facing a team that are banging form. But we might find that they see this as a bit of a free hit as well. So they're either going to come and just play and see what happens, or they're going to be sitting there thinking they're in prime position for promotion. Do they really want this distraction of a cup? In terms of us, I do expect to see quite a lot of rotation. Interestingly, young Seth Ridgeon hasn't been in the under-21s. Strong rumour is that he's going to feature at some point tomorrow, which, quite frankly, I'm all for, because we fought very hard to keep him. We fought very hard to keep him and King in the summer. And I'm not, please don't think I'm saying we turn the midfield over to him and King. I'm not at all, because they'll get eaten alive. But what I am saying is, if you're telling me that he's going to play for the last half hour, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I think that's sort of one that might depend on how the game's going, isn't it? It's one of those, if we can get a comfortable lead, then we might see them. But I'm not expecting that tomorrow. I'm expecting a very hard game. You know, I'd say I've seen Borough play 5 or 6 times on TV this year. I've been impressed with them every single time I've seen them played. Considering they've lost a manager due to him obviously being snapped up and taken back to Wolves, it should be hard. AJ?
Yeah, I have a question for the two of you lads. Would you take Marco basically starting all of the youngsters in tomorrow's game with the potential risk of losing it and throwing ourselves out of the cup, but breeding in those youngsters and actually trusting them to have a go with the silver lining that if we do happen to go out of the cup at this round, which would be sad, we would be able to focus really hard on pushing for Europe at this stage in the league if it were to go badly?
No.
I genuinely no. But if Fulham were to do that, if we were to go, you know what, we're going to give 5 youngsters a game, but it probably means the chances of winning it are going to drop. I would then also expect to see heavy investment this January in order to make sure that European place definitely happens. Because if we were to not
Fair
invest in
argument.
January and then go whimper out in the cup, you're then worrying about what our actual ambitions are as a football club.
Yeah.
I think realistically, Marco Silva sees the cup as an opportunity to actually win something, and we know he's desperate to do
Yeah.
that. You know, we know it's hard, we know it's difficult, we know that at any round you can get, one of the big boys, but the FA Cup's thrown up a few surprises this year in the third round. There's a few all Premier League ties. It's one of those ones that can open up in terms of, who we can get in the next round. I think it would be stupid to do that. As nice as it would be to let the youngsters get games, I think it's always best to try push on and get as many cup games in as you can. I
Yeah,
know
fair.
our squad's small at the moment because of injuries and AFCON and stuff, but 3 weeks' time that completely changes. And then we've got players that are going to want game time. And those are players that are probably slightly better equipped than the youngsters to get us through FA Cup rounds. So it's one of those ones, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? When you look at it and you go with that. I think realistically what we have to do is, first of all, respect our opposition. And Borough, if they were maybe, at the bottom of the table rather than looking at automatic promotion, you probably could argue that a bit more. But you can't, because they've been solid and they played well and they played good football. So first and foremost, we've got to expect a game of football tomorrow, and a difficult one at that. It's very much similar to when Sunderland came a couple of years ago in the cup, when they were riding high in the championship, and they gave us a very hard game, and it was only really one banger from Tom Kearney that sort of kept us in a tie, and then we got a replay. There's no replays this year, so it's one of those ones that we don't really want the extra time either. So we have to sort of make sure we take it seriously. I think we'll go from there really. Drew, do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, you pretty much summed it up. I mean, one of the things that I would worry about, I mean, we've seen what happens when we play youngsters, Fulham under 21s in the Carabao Cup. They got handily dispatched by Gillingham. To think we could turn the team over to youngsters tomorrow and go against a team full of men who are doing well in the Championship, I think is the best I can say is about it is that's naive. And plus the fact I wouldn't want to be if they got soundly beaten, I wouldn't want it to damage their confidence. I mean, if you're going to tell me, say, King would start, and Jonah would start, yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But to populate it with more than 2 or 3 youngsters, I think you're asking for trouble. And as I've already said, Silver's very much changed the mentality of the whole club in terms of cups. Silver wants to win. Yeah, silverware. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of it, isn't it? Sweet. Thing is, I think realistically, we're in a bit of a bad situation. So we genuinely all don't really know what Fulham's ambitions are this season, mainly because of the way that we run as a football club, where we're not going to be openly out loud going, "Yeah, we want to get Europe." We noticed that a couple of years ago when we were like within proper touching distance, and we whimpered out because they refused to say they wanted Europe, and it sort of felt like that the ambition then sort of died within certain aspects. It's a difficult one, isn't it? If it's one of those that there's never going to be a better opportunity than try and win a cup. If you cannot be inspired by Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup last year to know as a small one of the Premier League big clubs that you have an opportunity to go win something. If you can't be inspired by it this year, a year after it happened, when are you going to be? And it is quite as simple as that for me. We have to see what we can do. We know that it's 5 rounds potentially of difficult games. Borough's a hard start, as I say. Respect the opposition. They're a good team. They play good football. They've had a few hardships this year in terms of losing the manager. Their best player is constantly being linked away. We're one of those clubs that he's linked to be going to. But they're a good squad and they play well and they play football. I don't want to. There's not a right and wrong way to football. When you look at football, that's the right way to play football. They play football the right way. One thing that we should see tomorrow is actually quite an open game. I'm hoping we see an FA Cup game like we used to see in the past, where it's a bit of a shootout. It's a bit of a your end, my end, your end, my end, because it will be entertaining at least to watch. But you'd hope that we have the quality to make sure that we can come out on top with that. Arguably, it's probably one of those games where we want Tom Cairney playing because he will give us some control of the ball in the middle of the pitch. But then you're also going to want somebody who's going to be able to keep control of Hayden Hackney, because if he gets the ball and he starts having one of those games where he's running and having a bit of success, he'll want the ball more and he'll want to play more and he'll make the game very difficult for our midfield. So, as much as we respect Middlesbrough and we have to, I want to see us more thinking about ourselves than what they can do, especially with that. With that being said, I want Jonah to get some more game time, but it won't surprise me if Rail starts tomorrow with the view to getting Rail off after an hour, half or half time. But it'll all depend how that runs, and we have to see it that way. AJ, quick one for you, mate, because we had discussed this before. We know that Hayden Hackney as a particular player is linked to potentially, us, and there's a few other Premier League clubs going into it. Did that make you worry as a team playing against him that he's going to look at it a bit of a shot window? If he puts a performance in, it's going to be really good for him. Or does it make you relax more in the sense of just we can sit back and we can enjoy what we're potentially seeing there from a player? How does it make you feel, sort of watching potential of watching that?
Very interesting question you pose, really. It's a tough one to sort of pin on the head. I'm kind of stuck, to be honest.
Yeah.
You put me in an awkward position here. It's a tough one to say, but then you can't really complain if a player's performing to put himself in a shop window, to be honest, as long as he's performing. It's one of those, yeah, you'll be annoyed that he's in the shop window when it comes to being sold, but right now, if it helps us in the short term, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one. I know that I'm an admirer of Aid Hackney. Anyone who's watched the show and listened to Transfer Windows knows that Drew is definitely a Hayden Hackney admirer. We spoke about him in our previous show for this one, where we reviewed Christmas about potential transfers in January. We know he's a good player. I think one of the biggest things that's going to come tomorrow is that we can't just look at Hayden Hackney because they've got a quality squad. They've got players
Oh
all
yeah,
over
they
the
do.
pitch that potentially can cause us damage. And they've done a really good thing in the sense of they brought some players in that are a bit more experienced, but they're experienced at pushing over the line. They got Ailing, who's he's a great player, always good at Leeds. When he was there. They got Connor Whitaker, who's a good striker. It's one of those ones that you have to look at it. Realistically, I just want to see a professional performance by Fulham, push through, get through to the next round of the cup, and be happy. But it's also Fulham, so I don't expect it to be quite as simple as that. Putting it down on paper, it is what it is. Lads, let's finish this one like we always do with our previews. Players to watch on both sides and a scoreline prediction, please. Drew, I'll start with you, mate. Can I get a? I'm sort of guessing who your player to watch from Middlesbrough is going to be, but can I get your player to watch on both teams and a scoreline prediction, please?
Jonah for Fulham, because I'm hoping he's going to play more than 8 minutes, and I'd like to see what he could do being the focal point of the team. Obviously for Borough, Hackney, because I'm desperate for Fulham to buy him.
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't have a meltdown. I unfortunately can't make it due to work commitments, so I'm going to be heavily reliant on you, Ash, giving me updates every 30 seconds. In terms of scoreline, I don't think it's going to be a humdinger. I think it's going to be 2-1 Fulham. That's what I think.
Fair shout, I think. AJ, how about yourself, mate? Players to watch, scoreline prediction.
For Fulham, I think it'll be Kevin, actually. I think he's going to have something to prove, and I think he'll continue to get the minutes with our limited squad at the moment. For Middlesbrough, it's a tough one because I don't really know their squad terrifically well. Hayden Hackney's obviously the obvious choice, but I have a feeling that we might have to keep our eyes on Tommy Conway in this particular fixture.
Yeah.
And scoreline prediction, go 3-0 Fulham. Is that it?
Okay, cool. Confidence there. For me, Hayden Hackney's up there, Connor Whitaker's up there, but Matty Targett coming back to the Cottage is a player to watch for me. I loved Matty when he played for Fulham. It's one of those ones that I was always really disappointed that we never quite managed to make that loan move permanent, and he ended up going to Newcastle instead. It's one of those. Not to say I've watched his career since he left, but I've always sort of kept an eye out for him because he's just a really likable player. He was a likable person, and coming back to the Cottage, you may get performance from him from that. For Fulham,
Yeah, Sesson Young
sort
loves
of,
him.
yeah, I'm sort of in between both of you in the terms of Kevin and Jonah. If Jonah gets game time, I want to see it'd probably be Jonah for me too in terms of wanting to see a performance because I think what we've seen of him, I've been happy with. That cameo against Man City deserved him to get more game time than he's had since then. And I think that I won't be too disappointed if he gets an hour of football tomorrow. Even if he starts the game and Rail finishes it, I wouldn't be too disappointed with that. Kevin, again, I'm on the fence with because I think he is one of those players that he is a goal away from probably going on a bit of a purple patch, and he's getting closer. But I think his confidence needs that actually scoring to sort of push that through. I say Borough's a prime opportunity. They defend really well as a football team, so it's not going to be easy. So we'll have to see that. For me, as much as I want it to be an open game and I want it to be that I'm probably going to say 2-1 Fulham. But I'm hoping it's going to be a mature performance by the lads that do play. And hopefully just our Premier League quality gets us through. But if I was a neutral, this would be one of the games I'll be looking at to go. There could potentially be a bit of an upset. And if it does happen, it wouldn't really be that much of an upset because Borough have been rolling this year. And we've been a bit up and down, as good as we have been for the last, 5-6 games. it wouldn't be that surprising. Lads, thank you very much for joining me on this match preview. Thanks everyone who's joined us for this one. If you go into the game today, enjoy. I will be enjoying the Riverside for the first time today, taking my little boy for his first game as well. So, I thought I'd splurge and let him sit in the Riverside rather than making him use the outpost toilets in the hammy end. So hopefully they can put on a bit of a show for him. And if we get close enough to see Hayden Hackney, I'll probably mention that he should sign because we are going to be front row. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Fulham will be through to the next round of the FA Cup when we go to do this match review next week. If not, we'll probably have a lot to talk about. So, lads, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully, Fulham can get through, and we can all have a good one. Not really much more to say, is there, other than thanks everyone who's come and
Come on,
joined
you
us.
whites.
Like, surprise, share with everyone. Yeah, come on, you whites.